said we got a better.
Live on YouTube.
You brought it up to us.
It's gonna be somewhere around.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting.
One and a half.
You should all have an agenda in front of you, members. You should all have an agenda in front of you. We'll start by the chair. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Garrity on the motion, Mr. Thomas on the second. Thank you, Frank. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Kevin, we'll move right into the Public Works agenda, if that's all right. What do we have in front of us for item 3?
Sure. The first thing that we have under item 3 is a new contract, and we were just talking about asbestos and lead paint. This is for asbestos and lead consulting services, and the bids are out right now, and we will have them back before the board meeting. So we'll have the sheets, the bid sheets to go along with it at the board meeting.
Okay, let's bring this forward for discussion. Motion, Mr. Thomas on the motion, Mr. Bruno on the second. Any discussion on this? There being none, are we ready for the question? You'll distribute that prior to the
That's
meeting?
correct. It'll
Okay.
be there for the board meeting.
All right then. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the next item, Kevin?
Next item is another new contract for, this is for cold milling. This is one that we have typically as a term agreement every 3 years. It's expiring this year, so we're doing this for next year. And again, I will have the bid tabs before the board meeting.
Very good. Let's bring this forward for discussion. Mr. Thomas on the motion, Mr. Garrity on the second. Will this be a bid for another 3-year period?
1 year with a possibility of a 2-year extension. That's correct.
1 year with 2-year extension. Any questions for Mr. Hajos? Is the,
My bad.
Does this have piggyback provision?
It does.
This has piggyback provisions so that towns can piggyback on this should the town want to mill any of its town roads. That's excellent. Thank you, and thank Julie for making sure that base is covered. All right, then, are we ready for the question? Yes, Mr. Bruno.
Who's the current contract holder? There's 3 different ones right now for the cold milling. I think one of them is Reifenberg. The other one may be Fabricki. And I thought it was AP Real. I'm not 100% sure, but one of them did not renew for us for this past time. And it's based on the cold milling different heights. So we do a 0 to 2 inches, above 2 to 4 inches, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
All right, then I'll move the question. Then all those in favor of approving and moving forward with the new contract for cold milling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next one is another new contract, and this is for construction, reconstruction of guide railing, post, and component parts. Again, this is, we'll have the bid tabs before the board meeting.
All right, very good. Motion to bring this forward. Mr. Garrity on the motion, second. Mr. Merlino, thank you, Gene, on the second. Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the guide rail bids, going out the bid signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is another new contract, and this is for crane services, and it's with Roselle East, and the bid tab is attached to the second sheet or the back sheet.
Okay, let's bring this forward for discussion. Mr. Thomas on the motion. Mr. Dickinson on the second. Thank you, Dennis. Any questions on the bid sheet? Any questions? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the contract for crane services signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item, Kevin.
Next item is to increase, amend the grant for increase in preliminary engineering for H-278, which is Middleton Bridge. As you're all aware, this is a bridge that's been around for quite some time. Federal Highways and DOT is asking for a lot of a lot of engineering to go along with this because part of this that we're proposing where the bridge to be located is on what they refer to as forest preserve. So we're having to go through a little more design or design report information for them. So this is to increase the preliminary engineering for that phase of the project, which will be covered again, 80, 15, and 5 with Fed, state, and local match.
Mr. Chairman,
Should we move?
can I do 5, 6, and 7?
I believe you can, absolutely. 5, 6, and 7. Let's bring this to the floor. Mr. Garrity on the motion,
Yes.
second. Mr. Dickinson on the second. Discussion. Dennis?
Kevin, did they have to make the bridge longer to get over that property, or?
It did make it longer. We're touching down on what they refer to as state forest preserve. They're allowing us to use it, and that's the legislative process that Senator Steck and Supervisor Simpson at the time went to the legislative, and so did Senator Little, to get that land bank in place, so
Right.
that we would have the land bank.
Right,
So,
right, right.
yep.
How long is the bridge?
It's probably going to be about 120 to 130 feet, 130-foot span. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're right. This is a long time in coming. There's no question about it.
Mm,
I mean, this has been in process for how many years?
More than 10. More than 10. And it's still going to take a little while longer because they're asking for quite a bit of documentation. It went to a individual section 4F for the historical as well as national landmark. So it's definitely taking some time.
Well, I only bring that up. Sometimes it's hard for people to understand the processes we have to go through and how long some of these things take. All right, then, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving 5, 6, and 7 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item.
Is there something I
The
said?
next item is, I guess if we do them in order like that, it's the H393 Johnsburg bridges, which would be 9, 8, 9, and 10. And this would be for right-of-way services for those projects. So it would be to amend the grant with DOT. It would be to increase the capital project, and then it would be to amend the contract with our consultant to do the right-of-way acquisition work.
All right, let's bring this
I
forward.
move it.
Mr. Garrity on the motion, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Any discussions regarding 8, 9, and 10? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving 8, 9, and 10 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is a notice of intent to fill the vacant position of an MEO light, number 26, and this is due to retirement.
Motion to fill existing position. Mr. Merlino, thank you, Gene. Second, Mr. Thomas, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 12.
Next item is to fill notice of intent to fill the position of an MEO medium, number 14, and this was due to a promotion.
So moved.
Thomas on the motion. Second. Mr. Dickinson on the second. Discussion.
Chairman,
Mr. Dickinson.
you having any trouble filling these positions?
Quite a bit of trouble.
Okay.
I'm just, one of the things that we had done a couple years ago is we had, I think the previous superintendent had in place that anybody who came on board at the county, even as a light position, would need to require or be required to have a CDL. I have since changed that so that we will get them in the door without having that CDL, and then we will assist them in getting their CDL.
Excellent.
But I will tell you, and I won't say who and why, but I have a couple individuals who are interviewing with towns right now, and I'm training them now for towns. So, but
Thank you very much,
but,
Kevin.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's difficult, and I was actually just on a listserv with the county highway superintendents across New York State, and everybody is experiencing the same thing. In fact, Governor Hochul put out a couple weeks ago something to do with CDL drivers in need of bus drivers, and they were now she's requesting CDL drivers for buses, and that again takes more away from the counties,
Right.
towns throughout New York State as well.
All right, then let's move Move the question. All those in favor of approving the and filling the position of medium number 14 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. I might also mention last Friday was the Highway Superintendent's Luncheon, which I planned to attend but missed. And I don't know, Kevin, did you?
I wasn't able to make it either.
Okay, so if any of you get a chance to attend the Highway Superintendent's Luncheon, I strongly recommend it. Great group. The agenda's usually right on the money, and they travel around. Each one have luncheon. Last Friday they were in Bolton. I'm not sure where you are next month. You know,
I think Queensbury next month.
Okay, Queensbury next month. So, so if you get a chance to go to that luncheon, I really would recommend it. It means a lot to the highway superintendents to see us there as well.
Where is that notice? I'll pass it on to Amanda and let her send it out. Typically, my confidential assistant sends it out because she's also the communications person for the County Highway Superintendent Association. But I will definitely have her pass it on to Amanda next. But thank you.
All right, items for discussion. Item one, anything on item one, Kevin?
Yeah, the first one is the 2021 road and bridge project update. So I just wanted to kind of go through each one of the projects, and the road projects that we had in-house, basically they're gone. And that's the county funded road projects. Most of them are completed, if not wrapped up for the year. These are more of the federal aid projects that I'll discuss right now. The first one would be H375, which is 13th Lake Road culvert replacement. The structure replacement is now complete. Scheduled paving is this week. Bridge and rail installation will be next week, and it should be open next week to traffic. The next project on top of that is Oxbow Moon Hill Road. Paving is to take place this week. Driveway tie-in, shoulder backups, and guide rail striping to be completed by the week of 10/29. Call Street. Call Street, the reclamation process will be completed today. Production paving will actually start Saturday out there. And that's the substantial completion for that project will be the 12th of November. Call Street culvert replacement, we're still going back and forth with some agency review on permitting. We expect the work to be completed in early 2022. Palisades Road, Brantley Bridge replacement. Currently, the road is closed. We just had to update with the Army Corps our permitting, which we received yesterday. And we're just finalizing some sequencing with the contractor, and that work will take place through this winter. Couple other things that go along with these road projects. We have a right-of-way permit system within DPW that hasn't been overhauled probably in 20 years. Some of the things that we're finding in there is there's no standards for anybody to follow, especially when somebody does a road cut, shoulder work, things like that on any of the county roadways. So we're in the process right now in my department of updating that permit program. Once it's updated, I will submit a draft to the committee as well as to the board and the county attorney's office for review. But we just want to kind of create more of a standard that when somebody does work on our roads, there's a bond that we request from them so that if they do any damage to the road, we have a way of getting our funding back. I could eliminate them, not let them have a permit anymore, but that's not the process we want to go through. We also want to have standards. We typically put a certain amount of pavement down on our roads, whether it's 12 inches of sub base and then another 6 inches of pavement on top of that. And contractors don't follow that. They put down what they want. And if I don't have the staff to be out there watching them any minute, they get away with doing things that we necessarily wouldn't normally want them to do. So we're basically going to create a standard that they must follow from here on out. But I will, again, once we get that draft complete, we will provide that to the committee for review as well as the county attorney's office.
Yes, Mr. Hajos, you might include in that some guidelines or requirements for maintenance and protection of traffic. The reason I mention this, I had fielded a number of complaints regarding Call Street. I understand Peckham is the contractor there. And this is anecdotal, if you will. Maintenance and protection of traffic, the great grading as they went along, when you remove the pavement, et cetera, so whatever you're doing, you have to periodically go back and grade that. if you're going to continue to pass traffic across there. So that apparently was not addressed. Additionally, dust control was virtually non-existent, again, according to these people. And, but I was going to talk to you about it anyway, but since it's going to be paved or starting to be paved Saturday, it's somewhat of a moot point, but to your requirements there, your outline, whatever, that might be a good idea to include that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was a little bit different. It is a federal aid project, and the plans call for them having MPT in place. That project was, what they did was a cold milling with an admixture that they put within the pavement. So the initial grading was that, or the initial grinding of the pavement was to grind it first, just kind of grade it off, and then they come back and grind it a second time and add the admixture, which is like a cement mixture to add in with it. So that's why that didn't take place. The dust was an issue, but again, using that admixture, they couldn't put calcium within the pavement to keep it down. So we fielded the same calls. We had them put the water truck out there. And we've had them, in fact, I had them out there Saturday with the rain because we had ponding issues because of the windrows of stone on the side of the road. So it is something to stay on top of. We have an inspector that's out there with the contractor, and we continue to let the inspector know that, you got to stay on top of these guys to make sure that it gets done.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as an aside, I mean, I think it's really important work that's being done here. I mean, you can imagine with 250 miles or whatever we have of roads, you can imagine the whole issue of curb cuts, of moving from private property onto public property. How is it done? Where is it done? What are the standards? Some of these drives, these access points are dirt roads. They're not paved driveways. So some of them are partially paved. It gets complicated. And then, of course, you always have the issue of stormwater in terms of drainage of the road. Is our drainage, if we have a ditch, is that being affected? Are we going to put in a culvert? What kind of culvert? How big a culvert? So I think that this is very important work that you're doing here, and I look forward to seeing the products. All right, let's move on to the next item.
Yeah, well, actually, I have one more item on that. So for the 2022 highway preservation rehabilitation projects for next year, contract documents are being developed for the first round to go out to bid, and they will be advertised for bid beginning in November. That'll be the first round, and then in December we'll have a second round. When I say first and second round, some of them are kind of the reclaim overlay type projects, which are quick, simple to bid. The remainder that'll come in the second round will be the reconstruction type projects. Coolidge Hill being one that involved a little bit more design to go along with that bid. So
all of the reconstruction projects are long overdue, and get as many done as possible around the county. That would be really quite excellent. Dennis?
Recently, the county showed up 8 o'clock in the morning on Stone Schoolhouse Road, where I live, and they've been there several weeks, cleaning out the ditches. They've done a tremendous job. It's quite involved. There's a lot of traffic on that road. The flagmen, the aides, truck drivers, the backhoe operator, they've all been great. I did at one point walk down and let them know that the electrical service to my house, which crosses the ditch, is pretty shallow. And they were great. They didn't damage it. The other thing they did, Kevin, was they put in intermediate stone dams,
Check dams.
all the way down through on both sides of the road. It's a tremendous benefit. There's a lot of water and sand there. So yeah, they did a great job.
Thank you.
Super job.
Yeah, I think as we go forward, I mean, I think the whole approach on stormwater, not only in terms of erosion during construction, but the design of our stormwater assets going forward, kind of retain the water a little bit, slow it down a little bit. All of those little things over time, very, very important in terms of taking our infrastructure to the next level. Next, Kevin.
Next item we have is a permit overhaul or to discuss. So I'll talk about the recycles rebid, and Julie's here to kind of back me up on this as well. So it looks like the recycling market has changed a little bit, changed for the better. So Julie and I kind of had a conversation, and that we thought it would be prudent for us to bring it back to committee, that we're possibility of discussing it going back out to rebid and see if we can get some better prices. I'm not necessarily going to say you're going to be getting a credit, but it may be less of a cost associated with going out again. But that's the risk we take. I think most of the companies that had the bid with us were willing to extend. So I know that most of you are completed your town budgets already and probably already have a number in place for the disposal and trucking for next year, which are based off the numbers that we have now. There is a risk that we could move forward with a bid and get better prices, and then you'll be all set with your budgets, or prices, not that they should, but could come in higher, and then that would affect all your budgets. So Julie and I thought it'd be, the benefit to ask the committee, what would you like to do? Would you like us to go back out to bid? Or would you like us to extend prices? Companies to do that.
Are we just talking monetarily or an improvement in the recycling process?
Monetarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are professionals. I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm going to leave it up to Julie.
I agree with that. Julie, anything to add as far as what you researched and come up with?
No, it's just we are at risk of getting higher numbers if we put it out to bid. I mean, right now we have concrete numbers.
I just will.
Whatever the committee requires.
Yeah, but as Julie can attest to, the markets do look like they've improved. How much, I don't know.
Mr. Thomas?
Will the better recyclable returns offset fuel costs?
That's the other risk. The fuel costs are going up.
Right.
They haven't put us into the next fuel category yet, where the vendors can raise their pricing, but they might try to recoup that if we rebid, the recyclables.
How long is the contract good for?
The extension for all of
2022, correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Andrea, yes.
thank you. First, I want to say thank you to Kevin and to Julie for being willing to do the extra work, both on the research and putting it out to bid. I think it's a risk worth taking. Julie, you've indicated that there was a significant change in the market, and they'd have to justify that to us, wouldn't they? If that the fuel costs are offsetting the what they're getting back.
I guess we could build something into the specifications. That would be the only way we could get that information.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear you.
Step to the microphone, Julie. Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. We could build something into the specifications that require them to give us that information. So I could work with Kevin on language for that.
It seems like that would be prudent, yes?
We can do that, yes.
I don't think that was my question, but I mean, is that something others do? This is your world, not mine.
Honestly, I don't know what others are doing. I mean, we have been doing this for, as long as I've been in purchasing. This is, we do the best we can for the towns by doing the transportation separate from the recycling and the disposal. I would have to do some research to find out how we get measurable results, I guess, from the vendors. They're members of certain, or they base their pricing on certain indexes, which we don't have specifically that information right now. That's something that we're looking at also getting subscriptions for. So I think that would probably help us in determining our best route.
Is it okay to ask them to itemize their expenses or their anticipated?
Kevin, I would have to look to you on that.
Yeah, I'm honestly, Supervisor Hogan, I'm not sure. I guess we could spell it out in the specs, but I'm not sure what they'd be willing to do. We may lose some of those individuals, because they don't want to submit, because they don't want to provide that information. And that, then again, that could hurt us as well.
Yeah, Mr. Garrity.
Well, Kevin, you can look at the recycle markets and see what the pricing is now.
We
Is that-
can, yeah. I mean,
mean,
that's what Julie and I have done. I mean, we've seen that.
Is it
it's got-
jumped enough where you think it would offset?
It's hard to predict. It's hard to predict 2 months from now what's going to change and it'll go right back down again.
Sure.
That's what I can't determine. I wish I had that crystal ball.
Right.
I just don't.
Yeah, I share Supervisor Thomas's concern. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only recyclable that can move far enough to really offset additional costs of petroleum and diesel and transportation costs would be metals. I don't think, I mean, I'm not saying it's unimportant, paper and plastics, it's all important, but in terms of value, I think it's the metals market that has probably hurt us the most. When the bottom went out of the metals market, that was a big deal. So, so to give up the bids we have, it's kind of a bird in the hand kind of thing, my sense is that we might be better off holding pat for the time being and prepare for next year, or to see some type of analysis on the metals, which would maybe help us with our decision making.
And currently metals are not part of the bid. The towns are doing their own things on the metals. So, that wouldn't be, we could put it back in our bid. We took it out because it was better for you guys to do that on your own. If that does recover, then we can look at putting that back in for next year.
Right, that would be an option for next year to put it. My recommendation would be to put it back in. We can always opt out. Mr. Merlino.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with what you just said. I think we should leave it alone. I think we might lose some, and the ones might come in a little higher. I think we should just, I know it's a gamble, but I think we should stay where we are for this year coming.
Yeah, that transportation cost, remember they have your base bid at disposal and then you have the transportation cost. So it's that transportation, that hauling cost that really moves the needle on this. Mr. Dickinson.
I agree with Gene.
Mr. Chairman?
Andrea?
Thank you. Kevin or Julie, would you be willing to, or would you have access to the information that was shared with us in that meeting with the Zero Waste Committee? They seem to have some pretty solid numbers on how the papers industry and the plastics industry had rebounded a bit, but I don't have it in front of me.
I don't have it in front of me either, Supervisor Hogan, but I can definitely grab that material and I can hand it out to the committee.
So, because I'm basing my opinion and going back out to bid on the information that this group had and the research this group had done.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Julie.
I don't have that either, but the information they provided was largely based on how the materials is processed. So they're making more money when it's baled or shrink wrapped for the plastics. We don't do that at a town level or a municipality level. So that's kind of a long range plan, I think, or opportunity. The markets definitely are recovering. That's not in dispute. It's just a matter of how much that's going to benefit us with the way that we're operating the facilities.
Right, but the companies that are collecting it from us are bailing it and sorting it and making more on their end.
We assume that we don't, I don't know what their process is.
Okay, well, and we have a new solid waste coordinator. Maybe he should wade in on this also and give us a solid recommendation. I think Frank,
I will say though, it is rather painful to have people recycle cardboard and plastic, and then the municipality, the town has to pay a couple $100 to get rid of it, and say nothing about the hauling, just to, so it's like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just throw it in the garbage and take it to the trash plant? It's cheaper.
all right, well, if it's all right with the committee, if I just consensus of the committee is to take no action today, but to maybe do a little more analysis on this. And when do you need to, what's your date that you need to know for the continuation of the existing contract?
Well, Julie's already received basically word back from, I think, every single company that they would renew for next year. So
I'm actually having the county
You're holding
attorney's
it
office
right now.
hold the contracts right now, pending whatever the committee decides to do. If the option or if we're directed to extend, then we can release those contracts now.
right away. Right.
If I had to do a bid, then I would need to get that out right now in order to have something in place for next year.
Yeah, what's the sense of the committee? My sense is to hold pat for the time being and continue with the existing contracts.
I agree.
And to move closer to the recycling question. And it's just for another year, we can make that evaluation. Because we really don't know where the fuel is going, but it could.
Thank you.
It could take off here, and it has in the past. And then the hauling cost is going to go.
Yeah, right now, the vendors have agreed to extend their hauling as well. But if we go past that fuel category that's over $3 per gallon, then we're going to be in trouble.
Right. That's the upset? $3.
Right now, yes.
Do you know how close to that we are right now?
I don't have the file. I just looked at it last week. I want to say state contract pricing for diesel is maybe $2.55 per
I was
gallon.
going to say it's about that range.
Yeah.
255. So, okay.
Rest of it's back.
So anybody want to propose a motion here? Mr. Dickinson?
I move that we keep the contract for next year and look into this.
Okay. Mr. Merlino on the second. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Is there any way we can get the numbers for what the markets are doing?
Yes.
I mean, if you could send it out, I mean, be more comfortable looking at what the recycling markets are. I know energy, if you listen to the analysts, it's not going to go back for at least another year and a half. So it looks like energy costs are going to continue up. I mean, I'd just like to see that before we take a final. Do we need to do it right now?
Well, that's the question. We're
Can we
holding.
wait
We're
30
holding.
days or no?
We're holding the contracts right now for.
When do they renew?
By the end of the year. But if we go out to bid. as
Oh, I
Julie-
understand.
As Julie
I
said, we'd have to
understand.
do it right now.
I get that.
Yep.
Well, maybe if she,
Well, we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of the motion to continue the existing contracts for at least one more year signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Two opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Kevin?
Actually, I didn't have these written down and I want to bring it to everybody's attention that I attended the SALT Summit last Thursday. And Eric Sy is here from the fund. One of the things that the county is proposing to do this year is to kind of go all in for our salt reduction program. And that includes getting trackers for every single one of our trucks. Currently, we have trackers on 5 trucks. We have another 7 trucks to get trackers on. Additional adding of cameras on certain roads. We really want to become the leaders in this. And one of the things that we have not had to do in the past was we never had any money or basically stake in the game. We were doing the work. We were accepting the cameras, we were accepting the salt trackers, but at no cost to the county. I don't want to necessarily speak for Eric, but the fund and the LGA are willing to continue to move the salt reduction program forward. The county definitely want to go forward with it. We actually want to do everything we can to assist the towns in moving forward as well. But it's now, like Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, it's now time for us to have kind of a stake in the game. The town of Hague has already committed $10,000 funding to the program, as well as the town of Lake George. So I'm proposing, and I don't know what that dollar figure may be, and I'd like Eric, if you could come up to the podium, if the chairman would allow that, to kind of give his insight as well. But we're thinking that the county could put some money into this also, so that we have a little more stake.
Sure, without objection, Eric, welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me here. Thanks to all of you. And I just first want to say that Warren County is a leader at this point. You are SWIM certified, that's Sustainable Winter Management certified, for your practices at the county level under Kevin's very wise leadership on this issue. And we've done amazing things. The Road Salt Summit that Kevin referred to, that was last Thursday, it really puts Lake George and this region on the map, just not just in the region, but statewide and even nationwide. We had, like we have here, it was a hybrid gathering, and we had 150 people from around the country, including various DPWs, to learn about what we're doing in this region to reduce road salt use, save money. And this is a bottom line benefit that I know if Dennis was in the room, he could speak to. The town of Hague can certainly speak to, but without any reduction in road safety. So for the last 7+ years that we've been doing this, this was our 6th annual Salt Summit. The fund and now the LGA, as you know, we've merged. We are one organization, and I am the president of the LGA. We had put in the neighborhood of $1 million. I didn't do the exact math for the committee, but all on our own. This has been funded by the fund and now the LGA. And so we're turning to our partners, to the county for its leadership, not just in terms of what it's doing on the roads, but assisting us financially moving forward to the extent you can. Every year we put in as an organization over $200,000 to keep this program going forward. So this is a cost-sharing opportunity. We're partners in this pursuit. We're leaders. We were recognized in USA Today, among other publications, for what we're doing to reduce road salt, which, as we all know, too much is being used. And we're seeing the results in the lake, in our streams, and in our drinking water wells. This is a serious issue. And we know what it takes to solve the problem. And we're doing it in the region. So with the county's leadership and partnership, we can make a difference and continue to set the pace on this very serious issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, thank you, Eric. Kevin, what do you need from the committee today? What's the ask?
Well, I didn't necessarily put one on there, but I think we would need a resolution to provide funding to assist with the program. I don't know what that dollar amount was. I had in my head, if the towns were doing 10,000 apiece, maybe the county could do 20,000. I believe, we would have to look for the fund balance or contingency or something to put into that. I could also possibly have, with my salt reduction, money in my salt budget for 2022 that could be used as well. But again, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, you're looking actually for basically a check, from the county to support the program.
That would be huge, and it goes again toward some of the equipment that Kevin mentioned, these
Correct.
trackers in particular, which track application rates mile by mile, minute by minute.
One of the things that just talking about those trackers is, we had 5 trucks last year with the trackers on them, and that was great, provided us a lot of information, but it's not consistent over all the county roads. It picks certain areas that we're tracking. We want to be able to track what the output is every single one of our trucks on the road. also, with some of the work that we have done, we've talked to towns, other towns have talked to other towns. You'll get towns like Stony Creek, who I think Neil and a couple of the individuals that they have within Stony Creek, they are all for reducing salt and using brine on their roads now. Again, the town of Queensbury got into it as well last year, town of Lake Luzerne, Lake George, Hague. I mean, we're starting to get everybody on board. My goal for this year is kind of is my goal last year, and we were close, but we had issues with our brine applicators, was to be able to pre-treat 100 miles of the roads that the county takes care of in the winter months, our roads. But eventually, within the next 5 years, I would want the other 150 miles of roads that the towns are taking care of to be pre-treated as well, and to reduce salt usage on those. I don't think that's a far-fetched goal 5 years from now. I think we can easily obtain that. And I think, again, with the partnership that we have with the fund and the LGA, and the funding that they have provided us, I think towns can jump on board with this as well. And I know typically they are in the basin area, but I think there's possibly other opportunities that, for funding that towns could use as well. So again, I would look for a resolution from the committee today to be able to provide the fund, the LGA, with some type of funding. Not sure where we would get that funding. I guess that could be to be determined before, and maybe have determination before the board meeting where that money would come from.
And just so everyone's clear, although it would be for the SALT program, it would be countywide. In other words, the program would be a countywide program.
Correct.
I know that it started as a Lake George-centric program, but I think that you have a lot of towns out there that are looking for the live edge plows that can help with that, especially some of the smaller towns and other pieces of equipment can help do that. So I think everybody's water is important. Everybody's life is important. Claudia?
Thanks. I'll just echo off what you just said, that it is important all across the county. I would just say, this is only on here as a discussion item, and we don't have any documentation in our packet about what you just went through, like all the different towns that are involved, what they're already putting in as far as dollars. I think that would be prudent on our part to see all of that before we put forward a resolution to the full board.
And Chairman, I agree. Again, it was just put on as a discussion item to get the feel from the committee. I don't necessarily need that resolution today. I can definitely bring this in November with all the backup documentation to go along with it.
And we can certainly assist in that process.
Sure.
All right, and then for discussion purposes only, but I think it's, I think the county being involved in the salt reduction program has really helped to move the program along. You're the IBM of highways in our area, and with your leadership and your involvement, Kevin, I think that, some great things have happened, and I think the partnership with the fund and now the fund / LGA, I can't say enough about it. We're in the throes of putting our budget together, but you can be confident that Bolton will be there as well in terms of our involvement and our support. And I think the idea of thinking countywide, so especially as it relates to some of the smaller towns that have needs that perhaps we've already met. Like, for example, I think most of our equipment already have live edge plows, but perhaps there's towns out there that don't all have live edge plows. And then there's other issues associated with that. So the idea of taking this up a notch, moving forward, like you say, having some skin in the game, I don't think the dollars you're talking about are exorbitant at all. Kevin, Eric?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to underscore the point that was made, and it'll be in the documentation we provided. But the cost savings on this are very real, and I know Supervisor Dickinson can speak to this. I know the town of Hague, which presented at the SALT Summit, is learning this firsthand year in and year out. They have saved something in the neighborhood of $200,000 over the past 5 years in their salt reduction program, which is also hundreds of tons of salt, by the way, less salt going into the streams and then into the lake and the soils and the water supplies that people drink from. So this is real. This is a financial imperative and it's a direct benefit. So look at this, whatever the committee decides, the county decides to invest financially, there's a return on this investment financially. I think it's critical to know that going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and I would remind the committee, we now have a mobile brining unit that goes out to the towns to help make brine, and we also have a brining unit in our facility. It's not mobile, but to make the brine, and the advantage of that, of course, is that the brine can be applied prior to a storm event. And then when the storm event happens, it reactivates the salt and creates for a better clearing of the snow and the ice. And but most importantly, that can be done with but a fraction of the salt that applying the salt after the event takes. Now you got to try to melt that ice and that hard pack that's already on the road. So there's the brining has been a great tool in our arsenal, but we do have a lot of roads to brine, and that's going to take a certain investment in our infrastructure. That's going to take a lot more experimentation and knowledge on the part of our highway superintendents. And Kevin, you were going to say?
Yeah, just the last thing I wanted to add on is one of the things that the county is also going to try this year is we're not going to use salt on one road this year. And it's most likely going to be Beach Road. We're going to use liquid and liquid only. And there may be a time that I have to put salt, but right now we're not going to use salt on Beach Road. We're going to try to just do it with liquid and see how that works for this year. Now, understanding with tourism here, I know it's there, but we think we can do it. I think we can do it.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I understand this correctly, if the county goes forward with brining worldwide, countywide, then towns that are compensated for taking care of the county roads would be part of the plan. And is that correct?
Yes, maybe not in stage one. The county may start with its 100, if I heard Mr. Hadros correctly, we'll start with the 100 miles that the county manages themselves, but the 150 miles that the towns manage for the county, that would follow on in short order. Let me put it that way.
I think this plan could work and be very effective economically for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Any, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm not part of the committee, but one of the things that Kevin mentioned was a 5-year plan. The cost of money today is pretty low. We have no idea what the future may bring to us, and this is important to make happen. So can we have a 5-year plan to say, this is what it's going to cost us over the time? And maybe we invest now instead of waiting for another decision, next year and another decision the year after. If it's that important, maybe we should be looking at the investment for the whole.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great suggestion. And I know for those that have been involved in this subject for quite some time, the fact that this board is having this discussion and that the leadership being provided out of our Public Works Department is really terrific, to be candid. I think it's extraordinary. So yes, you're shaking. Yes, that can be done and will be done. Thank you. And maybe Eric, you could help us with that.
Absolutely. And I would only say, I think it's a really good idea because of the return that will be realized through the investments now. And so I'm hoping the county will actually consider a larger number than 20,000, given what we've paid to date. And most importantly, though, given the returns back on those dollars within that 5-year time frame. And all you got to do is talk with Haig or Dennis, Supervisor Dickinson, you've experienced this firsthand and can attest to it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Dickinson.
I'll make this quick. We did invest it early in the salt program. It's been nothing but a tremendous success. It's been embraced by all our employees in the DPW. We have most of the trucks equipped. It's just a win-win-win situation. And we did put $10,000 in our budget for this program. And I would hope that the county could come up with more than 20,000 and really step up this program.
Righty. So why don't, at this stage, you can get that material out to the board as a whole, and also Frank, based on the discussions today, maybe you could take a look at. I know you're putting the final touches on the county budget, but in fact, it may already be done. I don't know, Ryan, but if you could take a look at our budget to see what's possible in that regard as well. And of course, we can always make a decision later if we decide to participate and at what level, but it might be advisable to have it budgeted, something budgeted at this point. All right. Anything else?
I just have one last item. Supervisor Dickinson is in the process of, and Dennis, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. You're in the process of creating maybe a parking facility along Fort George Road. But you've had a lot of discussions back and forth with DEC, who may be giving you a little bit of a hard time, but they want a commitment from the county to know that we're doing something with Fort George Road. And we are. Fort George is one of the roads that's on our road reconstructions for next year. So Dennis is looking for a letter, which Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, I could probably provide the letter, but I just wanted to let the committee know. I don't necessarily need a resolution. I've written letters before just to say that we are going to do work on that road, but I'll let.
Sure, Dennis, you have the floor.
Fort George Road is in Lake George, about a mile long. It goes between Route 9 at Stewart's to the beach road. And in 1959, it was the Dowling Road, and the town owned it, and they turned it over to the county. My proposal to Kevin was to do a partnership with the county. They have plans to pave the road, which is only part of it. What the town wants to do is take that a step further and do a complete street. We want to do a sidewalk, at least one all the way through. One of the benefits of that is we can get snowmobiles off the Warren County Snowmobile Trail, and we can get them on the lake and no longer have to have any snowmobiles on the bike path. Two, it provides, since we put in the Gateway project, which runs all the way out to the Luzerne Road, we've had a tremendous increase in foot traffic in that area. And so this would be just one more route for them to be able to walk and get down to the beach and or back. The parking it's a high use area. We got the infamous dog beach. We have the $1 Million Beach. We have the lake walkway. If we provide parking there, it would be a real asset to the town and the community to be able to park there and go to these facilities and use them. Our modus operandi is we did this with Westbrook, and we do not start the meters on Westbrook until noon. And the reason for that is we have a lot of locals that like to park there, walk on the path, walk on the beach road, walk their dogs, and it's very popular. And then by noon, it's over. It's starting to heat up. The tourists are coming in and we start the meters. So we're hoping to do a similar project there, and it's a partnership with the county. And we're at the point where we're starting to make some applications. We just like some written confirmation that the county is with us in this partnership. And a letter from Kevin would certainly do the trick.
Very good. Any questions? Any concerns regarding Kevin providing? Kevin, you feel good about providing such a document?
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. Anything else to come before the committee? Don, anything on YouTube?
He's asleep.
Hi, Chairman Conover. As much as I wish I was asleep, I am not, and I am here watching. We have nothing on YouTube, so thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. All right, then.
That's, so we need a little humor.
With that, I'm almost hesitant to want to adjourn. Mr. Dickinson, a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Motion to
Second, Mr. Garrity on the second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.